So we are with Reverend Ann Deneen, the pastor at St. Paul's Lutheran Church in Lanesville. Good morning, Ann.
Morning.
I would like to ask you a question that comes straight out of your blog. What does it mean to be a church in this time?
Oh, really good question. We're all exploring that. I think it means the same thing that it means in every time, that it's still a people called to follow Jesus, still people called to serve their community, still a people called to love God and love one another as themselves. But the means by which we do that is changed somewhat by the practice of social distancing. And so we're trying to find ways to do all the things we normally do, with the change of not being able to actually gather, because one of the ways you define church is the fact of gathering. And you gather together, you're called, gathered, and sent. And you gather together to hear the word, you gather together to share a meal, and then you're sent into the world to become bread for others. So how do you gather in this situation? But more important, I think, too, is how do we continue to offer service and ministry to others who are in similar situations? So that's a challenge right now, because we can't do some of the things we normally do. That are volunteering, service at the Open Door, service at the Grace Center, service at Family Promise, service with Action, all these different places of volunteering. Or some people would go into nursing homes to read stories, and they can't do that. We can't do services at the nursing home. I can't visit people in hospitals. Friends can't, people in the congregation can't visit each other. So how do we continue to do ministry in a time where we can't actually be around each other? So people are pretty ingenious about all of that. And thank heaven for social media. And
Right.
I know, I'm thrilled. And it's actually pushed me into a new place. It's pushed us all into a new place of grappling with, ways of being church on the internet. And there's lots of churches who've already figured that out. And for some of us, it's a steep learning curve. And for others, they are just moving everything over to something they've been doing already very successfully. Does
So,
that help?
sure. So you're referring to sermons online and Bible study online?
Yeah, Bible studies or services. Some people, everything is already taped and broadcast. Some people hook into their local TV station. Some people have used this means of connection really effectively already, and some of us have not. So it's a growing edge for some, and it's a kind of shift over to one means of communication and gathering for others. So, but the essential part of being church doesn't change. It's just the kind of how.
So I'll come at this from a sort of different angle. Given everything is now through a screen, do you feel as if your congregation is asking anything different of you? Or also given the pandemic, what are they asking of you right now?
I think that everybody has a sense, in my congregation at least, and I think amongst the other clergy leaders, because we did meet last week, the interfaith group did, of trying to find ways to be present to people and checking in with people, seeing if people are needing anything. I don't feel like it's anything different than I ever do. It's just I'm not out there visibly with people. So I'll use phone calls for those, for some of that's email, some of it's texting, some of it's doing things online that I normally wouldn't do. Some of it's learning new technology. I think there's a kind of sense of mutuality in this. So whenever I talk to people, the questions are just, they tell me how they're doing, but they also want to know how other people are doing and if there's anything they can do. So there's a real sense of wanting to help one another. And, then I don't feel like it's anything more than what I usually do. It's just really different. And, I yeah, I would say it's a difference. The terms, I think we're all working a little more differently. It's more demanding in some ways because there's kind of a constant attending. Once we get used to this, there won't be quite so much input. It's a new way of doing things. So once we get used to it, it'll be a little easier. I'm conscious of people's carrying the concern and anxiety of the pandemic. And it's very hard to minister to that without being able to just listen to people and be in the room with them. It can be on the phone, but it's different than just even being able to take someone's hand and hold it while they're upset, And I think that those kinds of physical, so much of ministry for everybody is presence, not just mine, but everybody else is being present to each other. So I'd say it's a not more, just different kind of request. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Well, because I was going to ask, is the community or your congregation, what are they asking of you during Holy Week? Has anything changed?
Oh, they're very good. They're like, let's do what we can do, but let's not do anything that's dangerous. They're totally wanting to not have anybody be in a position of not having safety. So I think if I said to them, I can't do any more services, I'm just doing Easter, they'd be fine with that. But I want to do those things, and it's comforting to everybody if we can keep that routine together. But we're sending them things home. We're trying to help people do things at home. Our denomination has gathered at the kind of synodical level and sent out lots of really interesting resources for people at home. And you can go online. If you Googled right now church at home, you'd get so many many. Everybody's trying to figure out how to do that. So it's not so much that I think my congregation would be totally understanding whatever level I could do things. But I know that we all feel a desire to keep Holy Week as best we can.
And while we are talking about church at home, do you want to give out details in case people want to learn more about St. Paul's, how they can find you online?
Yeah, sure. The best place to find us for all the different things we're doing is the Facebook page. Okay. So it's St. Paul Cape Ann. It's on Facebook. We also have a website, and you can get links to various things on the website. But I think the most active place we are is probably Facebook. Gotcha. And there's a link on there you can go to sign up for our newsletter. So, and that helps.
Great.
Are you finding there are any particular passages in the Bible that are helping you understand this pandemic? Is there a place you're finding comfort?
Well, I find a lot of comfort in the big stories. I just wrote about that for the midweek musings. I feel like the big stories of the Bible, like, and I'm sure the rabbi, but it's Passover this week too. So these big stories of people moving through great and terrifying events and finding their way, or Jesus' passion and resurrection, these are patterns for us to understand the movement. And I think for me, it gives me hope that we'll find our way, that human beings have had cataclysmic events before. This is a big one in our lifetime. And that those patterns are there, those patterns of seeking and asking and continuing to find compassion, all of that. I think the really comforting things for me in Scripture are really about the exercise of compassion. Where you see Jesus healing and Jesus caring, or God acting on behalf of a people, to know that one of my chief comforts is from Deuteronomy, where Moses talks to the people and they're just about to enter the promised land. And he says, he delivers God's message to them to choose life, that they always have a choice between life and death and to choose life. So I feel like that's a affirmation on God's part that God is choosing life for us. And of course, the resurrection speaks to that too, that even through death, there's a passage to new life and rebirth. Mm. So I just find the whole pattern, the large pattern of moving from constriction into freedom is to be what God does in any situation. So there's always a kind of discernment about what is it are we being asked to do. I think love God and love your neighbor as yourself. Those give me comfort. Those are really clear directives. Jesus says, "Come to me, all ye who are heavy laden, who labor and need rest, and I will give you that. Take up my yoke, and follow me, for my yoke is gentle." And it's a kind of, and I think for me, the person of Jesus, like the Beatitudes, blessed are the poor in spirit, blessed are those who mourn, blessed are, all of those are beautiful too. I love the Beatitudes.
Mm.
And lastly, Pastor Ann, do you have a message for your congregation today, or for the community at large?
For the community at large, I'd say the people I know on Cape Ann are very sturdy. They have a lot of stamina. They've been through a lot, and they will get through this. And I think they know what it means to have faith. We live next to the ocean. We've seen lots of lives endangered over the generations. We know that there's always a light in the morning. And I think it's the kind of perseverance and stamina. I think we have great leadership right now in our towns. And I just want to say a word of thanks to everyone who's been leading so beautifully through this, as hard as it is. So thank you, and keep on keeping on. We will get through this.
Well said. Well, we'd love to stay in touch with you, Pastor Ann.
Yeah,
that'd be great. Yeah, so we'll be in touch for sure. And if people want to find you online, they're watching on Facebook now, St. Paul Cape Ann on Facebook. So thanks once again.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.